Ladies, how did a guy ruin their chances with you? It was October, and I'd been at college for maybe 6 weeks when Maurice, a 23-year-old senior, invited me to his apartment that night. When he asked, I finally felt like someone saw me as an adult instead of just another freshman. I ran back to my dorm room and told my roommate Yasmin and our friends Brisa and Iana, who lived down the hall. They were all sitting on my bed doing face masks when I burst in with the news. Yasmin lowered her phone and looked at me like I'd lost my mind. She said a real date meant going out somewhere nice, not just hanging at his place. Brisa backed her up, saying any guy who actually liked me would want to show me off in public. Iana was already pulling up his Instagram trying to find red flags. They made me feel stupid for being excited, so I texted Maurice that I wanted to go to dinner instead. He took forever to respond, and when he finally did, his message was super short, just sure, with no punctuation or anything. But I was still excited because this older, sophisticated guy wanted to spend time with me. I spent 2 hours getting ready while my friends kept making comments about how he should be taking me somewhere nice if he was really in grad school. Maurice picked me up in his BMW, which impressed me at the time. He barely looked at me when I got in and immediately started complaining about having to go out. He said he'd already bought groceries for dinner and now they'd go bad. I apologized like 5 times even though I hadn't done anything wrong. We drove through the main street near campus and I pointed out this cute Italian place my friends and I loved. Maurice shook his head and said it was too crowded. I suggested the Mexican restaurant next door and he said he knew people there. Every single place I mentioned got shot down. He kept checking the other cars and looking in his mirrors like he was worried about something. Finally, he said we'd go somewhere quieter and drove us 20 minutes out of town to this sketchy diner off the highway. The parking lot was mostly empty and the neon sign was half burned out. Inside smelled like old grease and the vinyl seats were cracked and peeling. Not exactly the romantic dinner I'd imagined. Maurice spent the whole meal talking about his internship applications and how he was definitely getting offers from Goldman Sachs. He never asked me a single question about myself. When I tried to check my phone, he actually reached across the table and pushed it face down, saying I was being rude. The waitress came to refill our drinks and he snapped at her for interrupting his story about some networking event. That's when I started feeling really uncomfortable. He kept mentioning this motel next door and how we should check in after dinner to continue talking somewhere private. My stomach dropped because suddenly I realized how far we were from campus and how I had no way to get back without him. He was already asking for the check and tapping his fingers impatiently. I excused myself to the bathroom but grabbed a napkin first. My hands were shaking as I wrote, "I don't feel safe, please help stall," and slipped it to our waitress on my way past. She read it quickly and gave me the tiniest nod. Back at the table, Maurice was putting on his jacket ready to leave. The waitress came over with the card reader and tried to run his card. She frowned and tried again, saying it was declined. Maurice got all red and started yelling about how that was impossible. She apologized and said she'd try again, but the machine was being slow. While he was distracted arguing with her, I pulled out my phone under the table. My group chat had like 50 messages from my friends. I typed as fast as I could that I was at some diner off exit 42 and needed help. Before I could even hit send, a new message popped up from Brisa that just said, "Girl, look outside." A car in the parking lot flashed its high beams at me through the window. All 3 of my friends were sitting in Brisa's car just watching the door. They'd been following us the entire time because something felt off about Maurice from the start. I stood up so fast I knocked over my water glass. I thanked the waitress who gave me a knowing smile and basically ran for the door. Maurice was still yelling about his card when I slipped out. My friends already had the car running and the door open. We peeled out of that parking lot while Brisa explained they'd been tailing us since we left campus because no real grad student asks a freshman to his apartment on a first date. 2 years later, I was a junior when I saw Maurice talking to some freshman girl outside the library. Turns out he'd graduated years ago but kept hanging around campus pretending to be a grad student to pick up freshmen. That same year, he got arrested for statutory because that same girl he targeted was only 17.